Intensive agriculture is responsible for large amounts of greenhouse gases, contributing to about 10 to 15% of the total global greenhouse gas emissions. However, agriculture, in particular organic agriculture, can also be part of the solution. The project, Carbon Credits for Sustainable Land Use Systems, using the acronym CALIS, assessed the soil carbon sequestration potential in organic agriculture and the potential to generate carbon credits from sustainable land use systems. At the final conference, held at the Research Institute of Organic Agriculture, FIBL, in Switzerland, the results of the CALIS project were presented to the public and discussed with experts.
The climate negotiations that have just taken place in Durban and the ones that go back to the previous conferences have taken some account of land use change. They've taken account of forestry, but agriculture has not really been very included very much because it's been put in the box too difficult to do. So it's very difficult to account for the changes in agricultural practice and the influence that they have on greenhouse gas emissions. So it's important in the future that we include agriculture so that agricultural change can be incentivised and so that the mitigation potential that's available in agriculture, which is quite substantial, can be captured.
There's the general claim, in particular in the scientific community, that sustainable forms of agriculture have a huge potential for on the one hand for sequestration of carbon, but on the other hand for reducing emissions, notably nitrous oxide and methane. The problem is to have a solid base of reliable scientific data.
In a global meta-analysis, Andreas Gattinger compared carbon sequestration and greenhouse gas emissions in organic and conventional farming systems.
By analyzing the soil organic carbon content and carbon sequestration, we found 200 kilograms of carbon per hectare and year more under organically managed soils and about 10% less nitrous oxide is emitted from organically managed farming systems.
Pete Smith is the lead author of the chapter on agriculture for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. What does he think about this meta-analysis?
The work done in the CALIS project is really useful because there have been arguments for organic agriculture and against organic agriculture, and lots of people argue over whether it sequesters carbon, whether there is a net gain or whether it's just an apparent gain. And all of these arguments are not very well informed because they're not based on good information. And what this project has done is it's put together a big global analysis of all the available data, and it allows those arguments, whether it's for or against, to be made on the basis of good information.
The meta-analysis included 70 studies comparing the carbon sequestration of conventional and organic farming systems. For the greenhouse gas emissions, 20 studies worldwide were included.
We have a lot of data now, and it's really good managed data. I think they consider a lot of aspects also about productivity.
The CALIS project has been financially supported by the Mercator Foundation Switzerland.
Organic farming is a very good example of a sustainable practice, and for us as a private foundation, the crucial question is how we can create impact.
To create impact, methods for carbon credit trading are needed. But organic farming systems are too complex to be pressed into one clean development mechanism methodology, known as CDM methodology. Therefore, Adrian Müller selected avoided biomass burning in sugarcane production as a first method to be developed and submitted to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC.
We wanted to see whether organic agriculture could be an option for credit-based mitigation mechanisms in the context of the clean development mechanism. We decided not to go for soil carbon sequestration, but to go for other practices with high potential, such as avoided biomass burning, for example in sugarcane. So we identified such practices and then developed a new methodology which avoids biomass burning and the related emissions and uses the biomass then for mulching in the project activity, And we also added this baseline of avoided biomass burning to a methodology that produces compost.
So getting any project, any agricultural project into the carbon market is extremely difficult. One of the problems is to reduce the burden on the amount of verification and monitoring that needs to be done. So if we can find ways of estimating the changes in greenhouse gas balance on the basis of just changing the agricultural practices, so we just monitor the change in practice, not the change in greenhouse gases, that will make it more possible, I think, to keep down the verification costs, which will allow these projects to be incentivized in developing countries.
An interesting part there is that we try to implement organic certification as a monitoring means to reduce transaction costs. And if this is accepted by the UNFCCC, this would be an interesting step towards standardization of these monitoring aspects.
Some experts questioned why sugarcane was chosen for developing the first CDM method.
Because this is a very limited area in spatial extent, but also it's typically a monoculture, and the socio-economic aspects involved with that might or might not really fit the idea of organic agriculture.
But there is a huge potential for conventional sugarcane producers to switch to this organic production practice without pre-harvest burning, and this methodology could help making this viable especially for smallholder contexts.
So first of all, we need to provide standardized methodologies, and second of all, we need to find a way to bring the projects to registration and issue credits with lower transaction costs as it is currently.
If agriculture became eligible for carbon credits, precautionary measures would need to be taken.
My fear is that the conventional agricultural community is sort of not resisting the temptation to sell, I would say, cosmetic measures as sort of new technological panaceas for reducing emissions.
So I think there is an opportunity for sustainable projects in the carbon market, but at the same time one has to be really attentive to only support sustainable projects. So it would be better to implement only gold standard projects or such things than just to abandon the carbon market totally or leave it to the industrialized players that will anyway develop it further.
So organic farming has some potential to contribute to the targets in agriculture. I don't personally think that it's going to solve all of the world's problems, but there are situations where organic farming, especially in developing countries, improves the nutrient recycling, it doesn't rely on external inputs, and it makes better use of the livestock and the products that you've got in the farm. So in those situations, organic farming can make a really significant contribution, and I think it's identifying where those opportunities exist. And I think that will be the big challenge for organic agriculture over the next 2 or 3 years.